All right. Well, it's a real pleasure to have Natalie Jill on the show again. Welcome.
Thank you.
I'm so happy to have you again. We had such a great conversation. I'll put the first episode we did in the show notes, and we talked all about spine and surgeries and recoveries. And I've been following your journey. I don't know how somebody a long time ago told me to follow you. And I was like, God, this just sounds so much like me. And I am just addicted to your stories, Natalie. I tell myself I'm not going to open it, but it's like I click
awesome.
on it. And there's always something going on in your life.
Why do you say I'm not going to open it? Because you don't want to get sucked into social? Or what's the reason?
Well, because you have always a story. And that's what I get, because I get stuck. And then you know how that just spirals out of control. And so this is why I know what's going on in your life. And this is why I wanted to talk about histamine. And I watched that whole thing. When I heard about histamine, and we're going to talk about MCAS as well, I associated with somebody who had allergies. I don't know much about it. I had same thing for MCAS. It's like this word that's just coming up, popping up all over the place. And here you go. And I'm watching what you're eating. You're down to 12 foods. And this is just a wild ride. So I would love for you to share your journey, but also explain what is histamine and how does somebody know if they have it.
Okay, so first, I was just like you around histamine. I didn't know much about it. I thought, okay, histamine is like you get a bug bite and you start itching. That's about all I knew about histamine. So I never really thought much about it. What happened, and if I really look back, I believe this started a long time ago. And what I mean by that is I would remember randomly feeling like itchy around my ankles or my wrists sometimes. And I never really connected what it was. I remembered that sometimes I would be itching a lot around my ankles or my wrists. And I can remember specific times where maybe I was traveling or I had just had dinner and I just remember thinking like, oh, I just got bit by bugs or I must have mosquito bites, or I never connected that it was a histamine response. So I think that was honestly many years. If I were to really think back of time, of not frequent, but random times where I would be somewhere and all of a sudden my ankles and my wrists would start itching. So I'll just kind of start with that. And I remember a very specific time after I had sushi with gluten-free soy sauce, but it's the gluten-free tamari, which is a fermented food. And I remember sitting outside with another couple and my ankles were really itching. So I wanted to sort of plant the seed first that anytime we've got random itching, that's usually a telltale sign that there's something going on. So it sort of started.
Were you in perimenopause? Sorry, I didn't.
Yeah, I must have been because I'm 54 now and I'm in menopause now. So, and perimenopause is about 10 years prior. So absolutely, it was during that time. I would say in the last few years, 2 years, but I didn't pay much attention to it because it wasn't a daily occurrence. It was a random, but I remember looking back thinking that. So where this really all came to a head is I had a really interesting last few years, as we shared on the last podcast. I mean, I had just a lot of injuries. I had surgery, a few surgeries, different explant, back surgery, disc replacement, like a lot of different things like that, that puts your body in a high stress mode. So anytime you put your body in a high stress mode, you are opening yourself up to immunity issues, histamine issues, even mast cell activation syndrome, which is MCAS, which we can talk about. So anytime you're putting your body through stress, you're going to be more prone to that. So when I think of all the stuff I was putting my body through, even though I really take care of myself with all the biohacks and all the downtime and even how I eat and how I move my body and how I hydrate, all the things, you can't fully avoid putting your body in high stress states when you have something like a surgery. So I think back to after my back had healed, after I went through all that, I went on this trip to Bali. And it was one of those bucket list trips that I've always wanted to do. And it was a very, very long flight. And Bali was not what I was expecting. I wouldn't say I felt stressed there, but I was definitely in a state of stress. If you think about long flight, I mean, you're talking 20 hours basically, or plus with the different flights, on top of just recovering from surgeries and a bunch of other things. Then you're in a different environment where the food, the water is not the same as what we're used to. So travel alone. So all of that is putting your body in a bigger state of stress. And the whole time I was in Bali, I do remember having that itching. So ankles, wrists, and I thought it was bug bites. I kept putting bug repellent on. That's what I assumed it was. So I got back from Bali and I wouldn't say it was right away, but it was in like a pretty short time after I started noticing a pattern that I would eat, and no matter what I was eating, I would feel this anxiety come on, which I now understand to be a cortisol surge. But it was like I eat breakfast or lunch or dinner, and within 30 minutes, I would get this heart racing anxiety feeling. And I didn't know what that was. I didn't even correlate it to food. It was like, okay, I'm eating and why is my heart racing? And after that would happen, I would break out in hives, like a lot of hives. And I can happy to give you pictures if you want to put in here, but not just ankles and wrists, but everywhere hives. And it was a pattern and I couldn't understand what it was, but I started to figure out that it was related to food. So I'm like, okay, every time I eat, I get this heart racing and now I'm breaking out in hives. What is that? And I really did not know or understand anything about that. And I would
just
share
to put things into context in case people don't know you or much about you. Like you said, you're a very health oriented person most of your life, and you've been in fitness. You're eating the right foods. You're celiac, so also there's certain things you can't eat. So some people be like, "Oh, she's eating some gluten," or I don't know, whatever.
Unprocessed, no dairy, no gluten. Like really eating clean. I mean, well. Now, there was things I was eating that I don't now eat regularly, like bone broth that I didn't, because I didn't know anything about ferment. I didn't understand anything about histamine yet. So I'm still in the whole situation. So I'm breaking out in hives every which direction and I'm really confused. I'm like, what is going on? Why am I getting hives? So I start digging into hives and I find this connection with cortisol and hives. And so it's starting to click with me. Okay, well, this is interesting. So, but why is this happening? Why, when I eat, do I then trigger a cortisol response and then I break out with hives? What is that? Because I never had that specific pattern before. So I started digging into what is that? What is happening? And I'm trying to learn every single thing I can about hives and cortisol. And I go into control mode. This is in my head what I'm doing. Hives must come from histamine. I must take out all histamine foods. And I start digging into histamine foods and everything has histamine. Like everything has histamine. Everything has
and all the healthy foods.
All the healthy. So I came up with, and I'm just going to pull out this little list here because I'm out of this now. So it's a little bit, I actually have notes here just in case. I journaled. The other thing was I journaled about this the whole time. And I'm so glad I did because you almost forget after you walk through something what it was. So I journaled about it all. Okay. So just to kind of give you an idea of what I had to avoid. Anything aged, anything fermented, anything leftover. So when you take leftovers home from a restaurant, high histamine. So cured meats, smoked fish, leftovers. So sauerkraut, kimchi, kombucha, yogurt, anything that is related to gut health.
Fermentation.
Like, so miso, yes. Bone broth, which I love, which I don't drink anyway. Caffeine, no caffeine. Wine, none of that. No energy drinks, no pre-workout. High histamine foods are also things like tomatoes, avocado, spinach, eggplant, strawberries, pineapple, citrus, chocolate, any preservative, coloring, MSG, natural flavors, bouillon cubes, like any flavoring, pre-chopped garlic, onions, dry roasted nuts, fruit, raisins, apricots, dates, like almost everything like had to go. So they are very high histamine foods. So first thing I do is I start cutting out histamine. And the more I'm cutting out, nothing's changing. I'm like, what's going on? I'm cutting out histamine and I'm thinking I'm controlling it, but the hives are still popping out. Like, what's happening? So start reading about histamine and toxic load. Just like we look at toxic load buckets with everything else, histamine is a load. So when you are having histamine response, one of the first things that has to go is high histamine foods. Because if you are having this histamine backup, which could have nothing to do with food, by the way, to begin with, and now you're adding high histamine foods, your body is really in a place of not being able to clear this. So you have to remove the high histamine foods. So that left me with what can I actually eat? And the list started out wider and it ended up having to get very narrow. So when you look at the wide list, well, you can technically have chicken, turkey, lamb, fish, eggs, things like that. Okay. However, you got to take it a level deeper. So like you look at, okay, I can have protein. However, it has to be basically prepped that day. So let me explain what that means. That means you killed the chicken that morning and you're eating it an hour later. That is not reasonable, or it's growing histamine.
I remember seeing this post or you sharing that. I was thinking, oh my God, it's hard enough.
Right.
Hard enough. And you have to go through this.
Yeah. Cause I'm sitting here thinking, okay, well, I can eat protein. So I'm stocking up on chicken. And I'm like, why is the chicken giving me an outbreak? Oh, okay. I got it. Chicken grows histamine as soon as you kill it. So that's not going to work. So I learned that red meat, beef, it grows histamine way smaller than chicken. Okay.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And you cannot reheat or do leftovers, by the way. So remember, so I start realizing that beef, if I buy a steak that morning, like, so it's at the butcher that morning and I buy the steak, it's not sitting in the fridge for 3 days and I cook that, I'm not going to have as bad of a response. Okay. So I get really clean. So now my only protein is getting limited to basically lamb and beef. Okay. Because it's the only thing that is not reacting. As far as carbs, sweet potatoes and yams were about my only safe ones. Okay, rice grows histamine very fast once it's cooled and you put it in the fridge. So, or
hot.
if it's like if people
Okay.
buy the cooked frozen rice, it was already cooked and cooled, it has histamine. Histamine is not killed by freezing or heat. It stops growing in the freezer, but it's not killed by that. So if you cook batch food and you let it cool in the fridge, it's growing histamine. So you have to literally cook it and eat it or cook it and freeze it immediately. That's like the only way that you don't have histamine. So my diet ended up being, and you saw this, it was beef, blueberries, bok choy, and sweet potatoes. Those were my foods.
Olive oil? Were you cooking with olive oil, I think?
Olive
no?
oil.
Or-
Yep. Thank you for pointing that out. So olive oil was my only oil that was working. I was eating seeds. What was I eating? There was sunflower seeds. Sunflower seeds, sunflower butter, no histamine.
Oh,
So
yeah,
I
that's right.
had, my diet went down to 12 foods, literally 12 foods. And I did that religiously.
Did you, sorry to interrupt, did you lose a lot of weight and muscle, and how did,
Yeah.
it was hard to keep it on if you're eating
Yep.
so few.
Yes. And it's not a weight loss diet. It's not, I'm not going to advise it.
No.
Yeah,
I know
I
that you're
absolutely, I got very small and concerningly small. It was giving me literally a disorder because I was so hyper focused on the food. But here's the missing link. So I thought I was doing this perfectly, but every now and then something would slide through and I'm like, what the heck is going on? And by the way, how I found this out about the chicken is I think I'm doing it perfect. And I'm eating I'm eating all the things that I'm allowed to eat when you look up low histamine foods. And what happened was I had dinner and I would only eat 2 or 3 times a day max because I knew I would eat, I'd get this cortisol response. And then it was like, so I'd have to plan for it. And there's a whole list of supplements I would take to help mitigate this. But what happened was I would sit down to eat. And there was this one night in particular, I thought I had this under control. I'm like 2 weeks focused on this before I knew it was just the beef and all that. And I have chicken and bok choy and a sweet potato for dinner. And 30 minutes later, my heart starts racing so bad that I literally think I'm having a heart attack. And I go to the emergency room and I'm like, I gotta go to the emergency room. Like my dad died at age 49 of a heart attack. I don't know what's going on. Why is this happening to me? I go to the emergency room. Now I traditionally have very low blood pressure, always low blood pressure. Are you alive? Kind of blood pressure. And my blood pressure was off the roof. Like they admitted me right away, hooked me up to EKG, blood tests, all the things. They're like, and I'm telling them what's happening and they see the hives breaking out. Like it's a whole, and they're going through what's the laundry detergent. And I'm like, we're past this. But so they're ruling out the heart attack. They're talking to me about my laundry detergent and I'm feeling really defeated and frustrated. I'm like, again, I'm gonna have to figure this out on my own. Nobody's helping me. I go to check out of the hospital hours later and the doctor that is checking me out comes in and he happens to be from Bali. Of all the things, he's from Bali.
I don't remember that. Okay.
And he says to me, this is how I learned this. He says, you mentioned you were just in Bali. And I said, yes, I was. He said, did you eat fish there? I said, yes. And he said, you have scromboid poisoning. What is scromboid poisoning? Okay, this was a huge pivot. What is scromboid poisoning? And this is after he checks me out. I was like, what are the chances of this? And he says, he said in Bali, when they catch fish, they don't do like they do here in America. It sits on the boat for hours and it grows histamine in the sun.
Oh,
and then it goes on to ice or into the whatever, and we eat it. So scromboid poisoning is a histamine overload. So if you have any underlying mast cell activation, any underlying autoimmune, any underlying anything, and you get scromboid poisoning, you're in for a hive freaking tornado. I never knew this. This was like, what? I was like mind blown. So I was like, that was an act of God that I just met this doctor. This is incredible. So I'm like, what do I do? He's like, Natalie, it's a thing. You're just going to have to outsmart it. Like, it's just going to take time. You'll get through it, but you're going to have to be strict.
So the scromboid poisoning, is that a different reaction than the histamine response?
No. So this is what's wild. Histamine, like I had mentioned, for years I had itchy ankles or wrist after sometimes. I probably had an underlying histamine response. I think a lot of people, anyone that has stress, nervous system dysregulation, which, hello, women, anyone perimenopause, menopause, we are prone to a higher histamine reaction. We haven't paid attention to it. We didn't know this was all connected. And there's so much more to this story here. What set it off the charts, the reason it got my attention and I really noticed is all of a sudden I now had this really activated cortisol response after eating and this hyper activated hive response. I used to get the little bumps on my ankles and wrists. Now it's covering my body. So scromboid poisoning is histamine. So when you already have some mild issues with histamine, which I believe a lot of people do, and now you flood it with a ton of histamine, now you're going to set off a fire. Okay. So what do we do when you set off that fire? Well, that's not just go breathe more. Now we got to double down. You got to cut that thing off the same way you would with a toxic load journey. Like you're like, oh, I've got heavy metal or mold. You got to cut it off. You got to get yourself out of the mold. If you've got a histamine reaction like this, you got to get yourself out of the histamine. You got to get away from histamine, period.
How?
Oh, so this is where I got double crazy strict. And that's where the 12 foods came in. So I did nip it. I made it stop. And how did I do that? I ate 12 foods, literally 12 foods. And I was rigorous. Blueberries, red meat, lamb, bok choy, olive oil, sunflower seeds. Like I ate 12 foods. I did not veer.
How long
there was not a drop?
That last for in total?
Gosh, I'm collapsing time in my mind. I want to say it was about 2 months. I did not veer. Now I switched from on Instagram asking people, what do I do for these hives, to like, this is what I'm doing. And
there was also a point where you were like, I'm not going to talk about this because I don't want to just keep feeding the stress in my head either.
Because I kept feeding I'm being defeated. This is like, what is wrong? And the hives are sneaky. They will come out, like I could control it and then they would still pop out like at a random time. So this was like a wild ride for me. And it taught me a lot about nervous system and myself and what I want to focus on. But so how did I control it? I controlled it. I got super strict with food. So anyone that has told me now I'm dealing with histamine, I'm like, have you done the elimination diet? This is not a negotiation. I don't want to hear, and I'm being really rough right now, but I'm going to for a minute because I think sometimes we need to hear these things. I don't want to hear it's hard because obviously it's hard. This is not easy. When I learned I was celiac years ago, I had to give up gluten. If I did not give up gluten, I would be in massive pain and I'd probably get lymphoma eventually. I gave up gluten. If you have an allergy to peanuts, you give up peanuts. If you've got high stress, histamine, hives going on, and you have not done an elimination diet like this, you're not trying hard enough. I'm just going to be really rigorous here because I had countless doctors tell me this would be a lifelong deal. It is not a lifelong deal. I stopped this. Now, do I still get ankle itching sometime? Yes, I'm back to what I was a long time ago, but I am not getting full body hives anymore. None of that. So I got very rigorous. This is number one. I got rigorous with the diet. I got rigorous with my schedule, ZORA. If it was not critically important in my business life, and it didn't contribute to me calming the F down, it was off my schedule. Like I had like one thing a day on my calendar. That was it. The rest of my day, I was going to listen to books. I was going to walk. You know what? I didn't make any less money. I just want to be like, people are like, I can't do that. I didn't make any less money. I got hyper focused on what do I actually need to do to produce, and I need to take care of my health. And I got rigorous there. So that was step 2. Step 3, supplements.
We all need to do anyways. Yeah. That's good advice. I don't have histamine, but I should probably do what you're doing.
Yeah. I got rigorous with the supplements. So here's what I did around meals. Before I ate, I took cromolyn sodium. It's a mast stabilizer that you take before meals. It is a prescription, but I did that. I took a DAO enzyme 15 to 30 minutes before meals. What is that? It helps you break down foodborne histamine. I took PEA. That calms mast cells and inflammation. Took that, and it helps post-meal anxiety and pain. So I took KPV peptide. What is that? It's an oral peptide. It repairs your gut lining and it lowers your over response to food. So rigorous there. Took KPV. I also took magnesium glycinate. We don't talk enough about glycinate, but that relaxes muscles and nervous system. So I took a lot of that. And I took an H1 and H2 blocker, which meant, this is over the counter, this is Western medicine, but it is critical, which meant I took Pepsid and I took Allegra Hives every day.
What's that?
Allegra is an antihistamine. And I took it critically every morning. Okay. Mm-hmm. It didn't stop, so you have to get your body to stop H1 and H2 response. And I took Pepsid, literally Pepsid before meals, before meals religiously. And while I was doing that, I had to work on all these things, but that controlled environment is where I lived for 2 months, and it stopped them. It had to be rigorous though. 2 months.
How long? 2 months. I was listening to your episode with this MCAS specialist, and you guys were talking about the DAO, and there's some people who actually respond even worse with the DAO. Is that something totally different?
So some of us already have DAO enzymes and some of us do not. So I don't know that you would respond worse. I didn't hear that part. Maybe we did talk about that. Yeah, I could have. It was a while ago. I interviewed her. It was Tanya Dempsey, probably. I interviewed so many people during this trying to learn. And if I recall correctly, some of us don't need a DAO enzyme. Like we already have that. Yeah. But I was throwing it all in anyway. I was like, let me take it. Now so to this day, I'm not taking a full Allegra every morning. I've eliminated almost all those supplements, all of them, except I still take glycine all the time. I still take glycine all the time. I still take I break it in half, a half of an Allegra every morning. So everything else I've been able to cut out, but a half of an Allegra and glycine is daily. And all of my supplements I went through, anything that ramps us up, left. Everything. B12, anything that gives energy, don't need. Anything I take now, every supplement, I went through my entire line. If it's calming, If it supports downstream, if it supports it stayed. Anything that supports upstream, it left.
So like ashwagandha or some herbs, would that?
Yeah, I'm not a really big ashwagandha person. However, like if I look at, so just let's talk about mitochondria for a minute. There's so many mitochondria supplements. The only one that stayed in for me is urolithin A. Timeline. Why? Because it helps clean out downstream. Anything that was like brain support, energy, nootropics, nope. All of that had to go, because histamine and cortisol work very closely together, very closely. And if you are in a high state of stress, whether you think you love it or not, like my body loves that. That's how I think I thrive. I get things done. That state of stress does not need anything that adds stimulation. And to that, we are wrecking our nervous system when we do that. So even things like red light, let's talk about that for a second. So when you look at red light, I love red light. However, it's a mitochondria stimulant. So you sit in front of your red light for 5 minutes, that could be amazing. Okay, great benefits. You sit in front of it like I was for 40 minutes. Oh, I'm just going to journal and sit in front of it. No, that is ramping you up. So I had to look at every single thing I was doing. And this was a really big blessing in disguise, and go, what ramps me up? What calms me down? And let's knock this off and get me to a state of calm.
What about, I know you wear the Lila.
Love.
You're actually wearing it now. I don't have mine on right. Did you have that on, or is that ramping up?
Yeah. No, I will never not have. So it's funny. I'm getting ready to go on a trip to Europe, and I'm going to have to take my Lila stuff off, all of it, and turn off my quantum upgrade and put my blocks away for a whole week before going. And the reason is I'm doing biometric testing in Germany, and Philip, the founder of Lila, wants to prove to me. So he's like, you're going to take everything off, put it away. And when you come, we're going to go to a third-party testing lab, and we're going to test EMF with or without it. So so he wants me to be away from it for a week, and I'm already sad about it. So yes, it does help.
You do. So anybody's listening, like, who's probably going, what in the world are they talking about? This is quantum energy. And I'm actually going to interview Todd coming out, because I'm so fascinated. I can't understand to talk to so many people who are like, I feel it. It's actually making an impact. And I'm going to get the block and everything. But you feel it. Like when you wear your
everything.
There's this little block. Maybe you want to explain what it is.
Yeah. So everything is frequency. I have one on my desk. See? Everything is frequency. And for someone that's like, okay, this is getting woo-woo, what are you all talking about here? If you feel different listening to music, that's a frequency. If you feel different standing at an ocean or being in the mountains versus being in a city, that's frequency. When there's certain people you're around and their energy lights you up or ramps you up or makes you feel depressed, that's energy. Every single thing is energy. If you look at homeopathic medicine, which there's tons of research on, that's energy. It's small amounts that contribute and make bigger amounts. Frequency is real. How we feel in certain environments is very real. Now, some people are very tapped in and tuned into that. Some are not. Like my husband, not too tapped in, tuned in. He is like, I don't feel anything. If you're that kind of person, it will do nothing for you. If you are the type of person that you're like, yes, I really feel different around certain environments, certain people, then it is absolutely changing. Just to give you an example, if I'm holding my phone in my hand, like we do all day, hand feels like you get like that buzz. If I put my hand inside the block, that buzz will stop. So it is a pretty instant noticeable change when you look at frequencies. So that's a whole other topic here, but part of the histamine journey too is also a frequency. When you think about it, you're in a high state of high stress cortisol and you're like, I got to fix everything. I got more red light, more this, more that. That is the wrong frequency. So we need everything to kind of calm and work together to bring that down.
Okay. Your whole stack and everything you've done, you do so much for your health. This is why we had this discussion before, like you, back surgery, or me, like hip osteoarthritis, like how this happens. So it can happen. And that's just the way it is, even when you're doing everything right and you're eating all the healthy foods and all the things. And then this just happens. So that's why I really wanted you to have this conversation, because maybe somebody can identify it. And I really appreciate the way you break it down in your story, because for some people who this is totally new for them, they may have this response. And if you get somebody who's very scientific and explaining all these things, they may not understand. So I appreciate you breaking it all down. And everyone, I guess, go ahead.
Well, I was saying, you said earlier about look at my stories and you're like, do I want to go in? She always has a story. Like, people can look at me two ways. I'm just saying, you could look at it and go, oh my God, she's extracting a tooth now. Like, she's removing why did she just remove an old root canal? Why is she doing this? What is she, like, I could look crazy to you all. That's fine. Or I could not do any of that. I could not share it all. And let me tell you, had I just pressed the I accept button, I'd be not mobile right now because of my back. I would be still eating gluten and dairy and be super sick and puffy and overweight and miserable. And I'd have hives all over me. And I would just be talking about how the medical system has failed me. And I'd be one of those miserable people just saying life sucks. So I choose not to do that. And that's what pivoted me into being a health detective. And yeah, I'm going to keep digging deeper, because the questions don't just stop at, okay, I stopped the hives. Now my question is, well, why have I been itching for all these years? What's that about? Like, why did I have ankle itching before? Like, why was I susceptible to getting scromboid? What is that? Oh, okay, you have a pocket on your tooth. We have an old root canal. That's got to come out. Wait, you have an oral biome that says this. We've got to address that. I continue to share it. That's my own selfish healing. I'll be real. Like, as when I'm learning things, I share them on my podcast, on my stories. Me sharing is therapeutic for me. And it also, I know, helps others. I am sure, no question, there's some people that go, she's crazy. She's got a lot of stuff that always happens to her. I'm not for them. What I hope to empower women to do is go, we get to be our own science experiment of one, and we get to be our own health detective. And we can choose to have a really freaking incredible midlife if we step into that and we want to look. Or we can click the I accept button and we can just to start to fall apart because time and age does catch up with us. And we do start stacking problems. I just choose the first one.
Yeah, I always say aging there's a menu of choice to aging, and there's all kinds of stuff. So we can choose to age like the stereotypical age, or choose like somebody who's inspiring us. And of course, things happen along the way, right? I mean, you can't, it happens, but at least if you are taking good care of yourself, and you choose well in the menu, then when the shit does hit the fan, you're likely to recover a lot faster and jump back to your old self. So I appreciate sharing everything. And I know that when I started sharing my osteoarthritis story, it's like you get so many, oh, me too, me too, me too.
Yeah.
And I'm also too young. And isn't this an old person's disease? What? And you know, it helps. Somebody out there is going, what is it? And this is another reason why I wanted you on here, because I don't have this issue, but I know so many people do. And you say, break it down really well, but I'd love to, the reactions that you had to histamine, like how you discovered all of this. Does everybody generally have a similar response to histamine?
So I believe histamine is a bigger problem than people are aware of. I think we've blamed nervous system dysregulation on, we just made a big bucket of everyone's stress and nervous system. And the only answer we've heard is you've got to meditate, you've got to work your vagal nerve, you've got to breath work and sound bowls. And let me tell you, when you're in a high state of stress, you do not want to do any of that. That is not, because that's like painful to go to yoga when you feel like that. So there is a root reason we cannot calm the F down. So we've got to look at that. And histamine and cortisol are tightly intertwined. And even if you don't have hives, if you're having a high cortisol response, you need to probably look at a few things. One of them is histamine and unloading that bucket. And then we have to still really take toxic loads seriously. So one of my big hyperfixations lately is oral health. I didn't really understand before, now I do, that oral biome is more powerful than our gut microbiome. So you have old dental work, you have dental infections, you have stuff in your periodontal, old crowns, amalgam fillings, old root canals, all of that is affecting our nervous system and our health too. So histamine is an alarm. It's the smoke alarm. So when you start seeing hives, that is your body's way of going, you're not listening. There's something going on here. You're not listening. So I'm gonna get your attention now. And then we're gonna make you a connect the dot skin right now. So you're gonna have little bumps and maybe you'll pay attention. So that's what that is. Because if we're ignoring all the other things and now we've got the alarm, that's what's going on. Now you can cortisone cream, which I've done, all you want on those hives. If we do not figure out what is underlying and keep going down the rabbit hole, we're not going to get there. The thing we have to be careful of is too many people want to give it one thing. Oh, you have histamine response, you have parasites. Maybe you do, but it's not always just that. You have histamine response. Oh, you're living in mold. Maybe it's not always just that. Oh, you heavy metal. Oh, maybe it's a whole pile of things piling up, and that's the alarm system.
Yeah. Now it's same story with my osteoarthritis. Oh, it's because you have poor posture. Oh, it's that you exercise like that. Oh, it's because you eat meat. Oh, it's because whoever you talk to, whatever their specialty is, it's like, that's the reason.
Of course.
So frustrating. So frustrating. So in the end, you got this under control. It's something, like you said, it seems like we're all on a spectrum somewhere, and you just went into overdrive and now you just got it under control.
Yes.
And you're back to eating the histamine type foods, or you
with
don't
some
eat
rules.
them anymore?
With some rules. There's one thing I will never do again. And I tested this last week by accident, and I learned my lesson hard. And that's leftovers. Leftover food is the biggest offender of histamine. Now, before someone comments, oh, that's a luxury and whatever, like, at what cost? I'm not trying to share this to be mean or to say you have to throw away food. That's not my point. I want to help you not have a histamine response and not break out in hives and go crazy. And leftovers are the worst offender. So that's like telling somebody with celiac, I'm not going to tell them they can't have pasta because that's all they can eat. Like, what doesn't make sense? So leftovers are the worst offender. The other night I went out for sushi and I got cooked sushi, but I had lobster and crab. Shellfish especially is high in histamine if it's done as a leftover. All seafood, actually. And I ate half the roll and I brought it home and I didn't even think about it. Put it in my fridge. Next morning, I had breakfast, working. I went around 11 o'clock and I went and eat the rest of the roll. Didn't even think about it. Completely out of an hour later, I got hives. And it was like a reminder.
It was a leftover.
It was a leftover. At first I was like, why did I get hives again? What's now not covered in them, but enough that it got my attention. I had like 5 of them. And I was like, what in the world? And I told my husband, I don't know. Why did I get hives? And he said, what did you eat? And I'm like, oh, I had the leftovers. That's what it was. Yeah. So I'm still aware, but I'm not crazy strict anymore. Like I'm definitely eating chicken again. I'm eating other things again. I don't do leftovers. I still love bone broth, but it's not an everyday thing like it was. It used to be an everyday. I love fermented foods. It's not an everyday. It's more balanced, and I'm on a lower histamine. I'm not strict, not a no histamine, but I'm on a lower histamine diet now.
Yeah. So I guess the game is don't batch cook. Don't
well, if you're histamine, you can't, or you batch cook and freeze. You have to batch and freeze.
Yeah, it's like you said, it's not a luxury, and there's things that you can do around it. So you're not wasting food. It's just finding your way around it. It's funny because my mother-in-law, so many things that she's done. She's French Moroccan, and I would watch her cook, and she would pressure cook, and she would peel, like when she cuts the garlic, she would take out that little bit in the middle. Yeah. All these things, I had no idea what she did, but she never gave us leftovers. And I was like, oh, she's treating us like prince and princess, or she's being nice, and I don't think so. I think she knew, and it's like she knows, and I guess it was ancient wisdom. I just knew people would respond poorly. And I don't remember anyone in the family going, oh, we can't have these foods for that person, because they're all French. They're all foodies. They eat everything, but they ate them in a certain way. And now I go back, every time I hear something new like this, I'm like, it must have been ancient wisdom.
Yeah, some of this is just common sense if you really think through it. That does make sense. Like histamine is growing. I just want you to think about that. Now, some people, our bodies should be able to break it down and handle it fine. We should. But just like we're paying attention to dairy or gluten or something else, we got to pay attention to that. No, I don't just watch histamine anymore. I'm on a mission to figure this out. Like I said, I had 2 old 30-year-old root canals. One of them I've since removed. I have an empty hole right now. I'm going to remove the other one after I restore that one. I had a cracked crown, had that taken out, replaced. I'm really on top of oral biome right now. I am really watching supplements and toxic load. And it doesn't feel restrictive anymore. It feels freeing, actually, like that I know. And I'm really paying attention to cortisol response. And you could feel cortisol, by the way. You have a cortisol reaction when it's almost like you feel like you've had caffeine, but you didn't have caffeine. So it's like that racing, like heart rate. Sometimes you can sweat, like just that ramped up, but no reason to have been ramped up. That is a cortisol response. And it's when you have I do believe anyone that's having a cortisol response, it would be beneficial to you to eliminate histamine.
Yeah. I felt that yesterday. I bought some tickets and I thought I bought the wrong date, and they were transatlantic, and I flipped out. Luckily I was wrong and it was the correct date, but it was just like total cortisol.
Oh yeah. And that's normal for something like obviously you slam your brakes on something, you want a cortisol response then. It's just that when you have it out of nowhere all day long, that's the problem.
Yeah. That's scary, because if that happened to me, I mean, for no reason at all, you would think, you're dying, like having a heart attack.
That's what happened. At the worst, it made my blood pressure high. Normally, it's not as much as that. That night, that ER response was not the normal. That's when I'm like, something's really wrong here. Fortunately, it wasn't a heart attack, but it was definitely, I learned about the scromboid poisoning. And I've since heard a lot of people that have been to Bali, by the way, that had this happen. So I'm not alone on this. And I don't believe it's new all of a sudden they're allergic to histamine. I think it's the same as my story. Like you probably had a low grade the whole time, and now this just kicked it up into high gear. It was funny. I was in the Bali trip. I was with a bunch of people. Only one other girl got exactly what happened to me. Exactly the same thing. And we both have a history around mold. Like we have the same, like a health history. So both probably had a low grade. It made sense.
Yeah. I'm so sorry you had this happen to you in Bali. It's like a dream paradise place, and it just went so wrong for you.
It's honestly disgusting there. People act like it's this dream place. I understand that some of the Instagram pictures look that way. My experience of it was not that. So I don't know. Yeah. It was a very underdeveloped, very dirty place. Food was dirty.
To me, it was, I've been there. I used to live in Indonesia, so I was there as a kid. But I went back again just the year, like 2020, just before COVID. I was so disappointed because my expectations were so high, and I thought it was just over tourist places. People were China, people are aggressive to sell you things, but not like in Bali. Like it was just, and the beaches didn't impress me. I guess I was in the wrong place to get anywhere. You had so much traffic. It just drove me bonkers. So I get why people like it, but for me, I was a little disappointed.
Yeah. I'm not, I mean,
well.
I'm sure there's some lovely places there where I was and the more in the rainforest. I don't think I'd go back after that experience. I'm grateful, as with everything, that this all happened to me. It made it part of my journey, part of my story. I would have never learned about histamine had it not been for this. I never understood why I'd have itchy ankles or wrists. I never understood that. And that's been years. And now I know that's what that is. And that's just a little warning. It doesn't have to go beyond that, other than that's your little, okay, Natalie, back it off a little bit. Like, my ankles still itch sometimes. I just notice now that's what that is.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to throw out my leftovers now. Darn it. But I really should probably be paying attention. Even, I always think, well, I'm not celiac, but I try to lower my gluten load.
Yeah.
I don't think it's doing anything good for us. And maybe I have enough DAO and I can manage the histamine, but I don't want to get to the point where I can't anymore. So why abuse it?
Why add that into the mix when you don't need to? It's so much easier. It's easier to do. No, it's not easy to do what I did with 12 foods. That was extreme. No. But I'm not going to eat the high. I'm not going to overload myself with it anymore.
Yeah. So we don't have much time left, but if we can just touch up on the mast cell activation syndrome, because they're connected, but they're different.
They can be connected. So mast cell activation has, and I hate to say this, but every 10 years, there's kind of like a term that's, we don't know. Like a catch-all, like there's a lot going on and we don't know. Like fibromyalgia was one of those. Okay. I think mast cell activation has sort of replaced that. So basically, in my understanding, and I am not a mast cell activation expert, so I'm just a girl that went through this that's sharing on a mic. It's anytime we've got a lot of responses happening at one time and your body basically tripwires. Like your body tripwires. It's like, we've got dysregulation. I don't know what's going on. So it's going to show up. It shows up in skin things. It shows up in stomach. It shows up in hair loss. There's a lot of ways it can show up. It happens to really align with declining estrogen, and it happens to really align even with hormone replacement. So when you start adding hormone replacement into the mix, which I am a fan of, nothing changes as far as your body and how it processes things. So for example, if you happen to have always been estrogen dominant or not clear estrogen well, and now you've got declining estrogen and you're adding things in, you still have a clearing problem. Like, that doesn't go away. So there tends to be an uptick in when we start going in perimenopause, especially menopause, in this mast cell activation. It is hitting that. And I know with me, for example, if I do testosterone, if I were to do a testosterone injection, even a low level, my body aromatizes it to estrogen and it creates a nervous system response with me. It makes that worse. So we have to really understand that perimenopause, menopause, even hormone replacement, all can play a role in activating more mast cell. I do think mast cell diagnosis is similar to having fibromyalgia or another catch-all phrase. There's not a one answer for it. Now, anyone I interviewed about this, and I interviewed some of the most incredible experts. In fact, I loved Tanya Dempsey and having her on, and she's fabulous to interview, and I learned so much from her. I listened to her on a bunch of podcasts before I even had her on mine. Even she will say when she's got a client or a patient with mast cell, the first thing she's going to do is remove histamine and get them on these supplements. Like, she was aligned with what I was doing histamine and supplement wise. And she is not against the Allegra and the Pepcid. There's this whole trend going around social media right now, kind of knocking Allegra and Pepcid. Like, our understanding, they're H1, H2 blockers. They will help if you're having high cortisol or nervous system dysregulation.
But is it the problem that people are saying they're abusing it, like NSAIDs or something?
No, they're not saying they're abusing it. I'll tell you what's happening is we've made this big divide between Western medicine and holistic, and where it's like, oh, Western medicine bad. But I think when you're really truly dealing with a histamine response and a nervous system dysregulation, and you're getting all these flare-up symptoms, those two things help so much. They don't fix it. They help so much that it can help you get to more of a state of calm so you can work on the other things. So I think when people are knocking it, they're not experiencing that. It's the same thing I would say with prescriptions. I'll tell you, one of the prescriptions that saved my freaking life through all this in emergency was hydroxyzine. Now, that's a hard prescription. It's a combination of antihistamine and think of it as a weaker Xanax and like a stronger Benadryl. Okay. So and it's not a very talked about prescription. I go as natural as possible most of the time, but when you're having a massive breakout like that, hydroxyzine will knock it off like that. So there are some things that I think Western medicine is there for a reason. It's there for emergency. I don't think there's any shame in having to add that in. And the reason this has gotten popular lately is all these midlife women are talking about anxiety. Okay. They're not connecting the dots yet that their anxiety could absolutely be related to mast cell and histamine. So the reason Allegra and Pepcid is helping with this is it's addressing those things. People aren't putting that together. They're just thinking, oh, they don't understand that. But I think if you're listening and you are struggling with this, there's no shame in doing that to help you.
Yeah. Now, I think we all have to understand their trade-offs and their benefits and risks to everything that we do.
Yes.
I avoided surgery like the plague. I didn't want a surgery, but when my life got so bad, I was like, no, the risks of surgery are so low compared to the benefits that I'm going to get with brand new hips. So yeah, I agree with you 100%. There's nothing, we just have to use the tools that we have in order to get whatever it is that we want. I mean, some people, they have different lives, do what they want. But the mast cell activation syndrome, is this something that that comes and goes, or is this something you have for the rest of your life?
It's kind of probably similar to an autoimmune, like you have it, but I don't look at it as a doomsday. It's more of an instruction manual. So I think sometimes when we hear these things, like you're looking like you might have type 1 diabetes, or type 2 diabetes, you're pre-diabetic, or you're celiac, or you've got Hashimoto's or mast cell activation. Instead of looking at it as a doomsday diagnosis, I take that as, oh, it's an instruction manual. Okay. It's a glimpse into, I need to pay attention to this, because every single one of those things is knowledge, and it's all manageable with that knowledge. So for example, you get told you're celiac, it's knowledge. Okay, great. I'm not going to have gluten. I'm going to feel amazing. Your Hashimoto's. Okay, got it. Got to watch that. I will feel good. Pre-diabetic. Got it. Better lower A1C. I won't have problems. So instead of looking at these things as doomsday diagnosis, I suggest that we look at them as, this is a thank you. It's an instruction manual, and it helps me manage and tweak things different. That's how I look at mast cell.
Oh, I like that. That's from so many things. If we could just understand that, I always think some of these times when we get ill or something happens, it's an upgrade. It's like we get a chance to make ourselves even better that maybe we wouldn't have paid attention if this didn't happen to us. So you appreciate life so much more, the things that you have so we can put the positive spin on it. I like that. So now with somebody, so if somebody has MCAS right now, or they're thinking they may have, how do you know if you have, how did you get diagnosed?
Yeah, well, I didn't actually get an MCAS diagnosis. Like I don't know that anyone's like, you have MCAS. They're like, this is presenting as MCAS. So I interviewed a bunch of people around MCAS. What I was told is I'm having a histamine response. What I was told is that this is presenting as MCAS. What I was told is the scromboy poisoning. Those are the things I was told. So to me, it's not necessarily chasing the diagnosis. It's understanding and being aware and understanding, and not taking the answer. It's just your detergent or your shampoo, because that's lame. Not all hives and nervous system are because of a topical something that you're using. There's more to that. So it's taking the time to understand and learn. Now, I did journal all this along the way, and I ended up putting it together in a little guide, just so you know, ZORA. Yes. And it's just, if you go to return, then the number 2 calm, return to the number 2 calm.com. I have a whole guide there that just like, I journaled the whole thing, like every single thing, what to do, everything I listed out, supplements, the foods, all of that, which I believe is tremendously helpful before you go and pay thousands of dollars on a coach or someone that specializes. Like, at least equip yourself with information and see what you can manage yourself, because it's not as challenging as you think when you have all that information. And not suck it up to, not fall into the whole, I have an answer and this is it. It's not an easy button. It's not I'm just going to take this. It's an understanding of your body and operating it different.
Okay, I'm going to have a link to that in the show notes in case you guys didn't get that down, because I think these little guides and manuals, it's such a great place to start. You've done so much work. You've learned so much. You got your PhD in histamine. And
I basically did by accident.
And now you're helping so many other people. Please, whoever's listening, if you think this would be useful, go get the guide. Please share this episode with somebody you think needs to hear it. It's a great starting point to dig deeper. And please go to Natalie Jill's podcast, because she's interviewed all these incredible experts. You want to dive even deeper. Thank you so much, Natalie, for your time.
Thank you, ZORA.
I know you're helping a lot of people, so we'll hopefully have you on again. Hopefully for not, maybe we talk about your
every time something happens, my husband's like, oh, here we go. We got another Instagram story, another podcast episode.
Yeah, I guess it gives interesting content. Hopefully, nothing too serious, but we'll always learn from you and keep being that health detective that you are. And it's very inspiring.
Thank you. Thank you.